Hello there, and welcome to the Outside Film Podcast, where we talk film, TV, games, and all that jazz like there's no tomorrow. This week we're talking about Rogue One, a Star Wars story. My name is Tom, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host John. How are you this week?
Hello. I'm doing great. I'm very looking forward to talk about Rogue One, a film that I haven't watched since its premiere.
Awesome. So, Rogue One, briefly explain the plot for those who don't know.
Jin's father is forcibly taken by the Galactic Empire to help them complete the Death Star. When she grows up, she joins a group of resistant fighters who aim to steal the Empire's blueprints. Ooh,
Awesome. So, spoilers ahead for
awesome.
if you haven't seen Rogue One. So, I mean, obviously, you're just saying that you haven't seen Rogue One for 6 years, but I've watched it quite a few times, and obviously, we're now gearing up for Andor, which was literally just when we were recording this, it was just delayed from the 31st of August to 21st September. So we do have to wait even longer, which is soul crushing. But yeah, like we're gearing up for Andor. What did you think revisiting it?
It was really interesting because I watched the new Star Wars films, like the new trilogy and then Solo. And, it was like a really interesting way of showing what was life before anything happening in the original trilogy, like in A New Hope. And this felt like a comfortable way of like easing the audience into like the Star Wars world because it's brand new. But Rogue One is like that catalyst for New
Mm.
Hope. And it's really interesting, like with the new CGI, with new locations, and it was really interesting to see who were these group of people who were trying to save the whole galaxy from the Galactic Empire for the Death Star. And it's a very powerful story looking back in it now, and it's like, wow, that's a group of people who are trying to save the universe.
Yeah, I think that there definitely is a really interesting choice to kind of, explore this moment in time particularly. And I definitely think that at the beginning of Disney's run as owners of Lucasfilm, at the beginning of this new era, starting with The Force Awakens, well, starting a little bit before that with Star Wars Rebels, through all the TV shows and the games and the movies that we've had, you can definitely see towards the beginning, and to some extent it's still like this, but there's a lot of nostalgia for the original trilogy, and particularly Rogue One and Force Awakens are two films that really set themselves very, like, Rogue One sets itself right before A New Hope, and Force Awakens obviously harkens back to it in the way that its plot pays homage to A New Hope. And I definitely think you can see here that this is like another safe move for Disney to make a film that will help them get back that money that they spent on Lucasfilm. And I'm pretty sure it paid off. Rogue One grossed over $1 billion. So, like, this film was really popular. And I definitely think that there's a reason for that.
Yeah, at the time it was very popular because Star Wars was back alive. It was back
Mm.
from the dead since the
It was
prequels.
it was so exciting. There was
It was an
nothing like
exciting
it.
era. Yeah,
Like,
it was
yeah, like
exciting.
like I'm sure one day we'll talk about all the Star Wars films, but nothing compares to the excitement of Force Awakens and Rogue One. And this is a time before, now Star Wars has always been polarizing. Ever since The Empire Strikes Back, Star Wars has been controversial. The Empire Strikes Back was controversial. The Return of the Jedi was controversial. The prequel trilogy was controversial. The Clone Wars was controversial. Rebels, the sequel trilogy, Solo, everything is bloody controversial because Star Wars fans are the worst. I should know I'm one of them. And
Yeah.
literally, what was so good about this time, and I still get that feeling when I rewatch Rogue One, is it hadn't exploded yet.
Oh, yeah.
The Last Jedi hadn't come out. People were in general still happy about Star Wars, and
Ah, good
like
time.
it was a nice time. And there are some things in this film which I just think are so enjoyable to watch. So much of it is just fun, hopeful Star Wars with action, and you can watch it without the weight of a lot of this stuff going on in the fandom, and I think that that's really special. I miss that.
Yeah, and if you remember, when Force Awakens came back in our Cineworld, there was a bunch of stormtroopers around the place.
Yes.
Yes, and that was like supposed to be really exciting. But anyway, looking back at the film, I know what you mean about like it was a good time for that era, like everybody was not worried about it. And this film definitely showed that it was, that time for a start of a new hope for, like with Star Wars and, what the future is going to be like and, reinventing stories between the prequels and the original, and it was like really interesting, like building that bridge between it, and it was great.
Yeah, there's some really powerful moments that I think, especially when you watch them now. For example, at the end, when Jin and Cassian have sent off the Death Star plans and they are kind of, they're holding each other, and Cassian says, "Do you think anyone's listening?" And Jin says, "I do, someone's out there." And it's almost this metatextual thing of like, this moment just before Star Wars changed everything. Like this film is a love letter to the original in the sense that like you can feel like the galaxy is about to change and everything is about to change, and it's on the precipice of a huge moment. And I feel that, at the end of the film, I want to watch New Hope and I feel like my life is going to change all over again, because that's what Star Wars did for cinema for so many people, and I would say myself included. And it does feel like that.
Yeah, and it's a smooth transition, and along the way, you get to know these characters and how much they sacrificed to get the blueprints of the Death Star, and it reinforces how powerful New Hope was. Like what Star Wars was like back in the '70s, and how it was like the start of a blockbuster movie trend.
Absolutely. I think that the main thing that this film falls short for me is in the characters. The film's
Mm.
characters are just really, really dry. Not all of them. We've got quite a big cast, it's an ensemble piece, but man, like I really struggle because obviously this film ends with a really dire ending and a really depressing one where all of the main characters die. And watching it, I don't feel much when any of them go. I don't know a whole lot about most of the characters aside from surface level things.
Yeah, and there was like a pilot, there was like a robot, and there was like really cool characters like Chirrut Emery, and he was a really cool character that I thought, like a blind Jedi, and there was an interesting. But as you said, they are dry characters. It struggles to keep the story going because it's supposed to like emotional, it's supposed to be powerful for these characters who are trying to sacrifice themselves to get the plans. But there's some great acting from Ben Mendelsohn, who played Orson, and he did pretty well, I thought. And Matt Mickelson, he was excellent as well as
Yeah, yeah.
Ben's father. He was great.
Yeah, I feel like everybody gets their scene to be really cool. As you say, Chirrut, his second scene where he attacks all these stormtroopers, and you get to see Donnie Yen like flexing some of his action abilities, and that kind of stuff is really really cool. And I think that's where this film is in its best. The action and the scope is amazing. Like we talked about Obi-Wan Kenobi recently, which is a great show, but man, it looks horrible. But this film, Rogue One, oh my, it looks amazing. It's so visually stunning, and that is definitely something that I feel like we don't have in Star Wars these days. And that can be for so many reasons: TV budget, the volume, different people shooting things. But interestingly enough, Andor isn't using the volume at all and is all going to be on location and built sets and green screen, and so I do feel like maybe we are going back to something like this, which I think is really exciting.
Yeah, and there's some really interesting moments in the film. Oh, and also, as you said about like it looks stunning, like the visual flair and everything. Like it's a love letter to the original trilogy. Like how the sets were used, and they were going back to some of the planets, and it was really cool as well. I thought, and there were some cameos like from R2D2 and C3PO, and
Yes.
that's the start of like a New Hope, as I keep saying.
Yeah, you got
Yeah.
you got a lot you got a lot of cameos in this. You get to see Ponda Baba and Dr. Evazan in Jeddah
Mm.
very briefly. And it definitely does feel like a lot of the time you do feel a little bit nudged. They're being like, hey, remember this? Remember that? And sometimes it is like, yes, let me watch the movie. We do take breaks, and sometimes, hey, it's really charming. Like when R2 and 3PO is like, we're going to Scarif. That's great. But other times it's a little bit annoying. And I think that one of the big things that has pushed this generation of cameos and callbacks that we are experiencing with No Way Home and Multiverse of Madness and The Flash and just loads of blockbusters and even Obi-Wan Kenobi and The Matrix and Top Gun, various things like that. One of the big factors in that, I think, is Darth Vader in this film,
Oh
because
yeah.
he is so good in this movie, and the reaction that people had when it came out, rightfully so. Again, in Kenobi, Vader looked a bit weird. He was shot kind of strangely. It didn't feel like Darth Vader, but in this film, oh my God, he has such presence. You first see him in the Bacta tank, and then when Krennic's waiting outside and the doors open, and you get the iconic Darth Vader silhouette. Chef's kiss. It's beautiful. It's incredible. He's
Ugh.
amazing. And you know, what can I even say about the hallway scene at the end that hasn't been said? It's incredible. Like the lighting and the way that he stalks down and is cutting down the rebel troopers one by one. It's brilliant.
Yeah, and I'm still thinking about that scene. It's just lives went through in my head. You know, like how it's like slowly builds up with this theme, and then
Yeah.
lightsaber just comes out in the silhouette.
Ugh,
Cinema. That
it
is,
really is.
and that is a great way, like a great segue into the next film, and the music in that as well. Like they brought back his theme as well.
The music, I think it's a really
Oh,
good
the
point.
music, yeah.
The
Let's
music
say.
is so good. Michael Giacchino is just a genius. And
Oh, I
this
didn't
is
know Michael
yeah, this
Giacchino
is
did this
Michael
one.
Giacchino like at
Oh,
his
nice.
best. And this is something that I think if you remember our conversation about No Way Home, if anyone's listened to that, I was really disappointed because Giacchino didn't bring like he didn't tie back any of the old themes. We didn't really get to see Tobey Maguire or Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man themes in their all their glory. And obviously they were there, but they could have been there a lot more. But in this film, oh my God, it's mostly new compositions, but he ties in the old themes so well. And just little hints of the music goes a long way in making this feel like Star Wars. Again, Kenobi didn't have that, and it kind of detracted from it. But this, you know, the first time we see the Death Star when the laser is getting placed onto the thing, it's not the Imperial March, but it's got a similar motif. And then they bring it down at the end with the Imperial motif from A New Hope. And just little things like that that really make it feel like, yeah, this is Star Wars the way that you knew it.
Yeah, and it's just as you said, that nostalgic vibe. It was like a love letter to John Williams' score in Star Wars, and like how he kept that within Rogue One, and I thought that was like a really cool thing to it. I really like the opening, the theme in the beginning. You know, like when Mads Mikkelsen's character talks to Ben Mendelsohn's, and it's like, you know, how he wants to live a peaceful life, but then it gets taken away by the Galactic Empire. You know, it creates that soul crushing feeling. You know, how this is not going to be your typical Star Wars film. It's a lot different what you see, because all the characters die that you know, and it's supposed to be like a hopeful letter to it. And at the beginning, it starts off dark, and I realize that because it just slowly builds up to, you know, like this whole arc of how to, you know, save this whole thing from the Galactic Empire.
Yeah, the Empire is so scary and it is so dark, especially at the beginning. Krennic
Oh,
doesn't
we were
give
so close to greatness.
Yeah, Krennic doesn't give the Ursos a choice. And Lyra dies, and Jin only just escapes, and Galen is captured, and the Death Troopers burn down their home. And throughout the film, you know, for example, Jeddah is under Imperial occupation, and the whole film feels like it's on a timer, and that you know they need to do this, like you know, before the Death Star kind of reaches its full potential. And there are certain scenes like when they're escaping Jeddah, and the wave from the Death Star's destruction is getting closer and closer, and it just feels so dire. But at the end of the day, even after everything, after all the main characters are dead, after Darth Vader has gone ballistic down a hallway, the last thing we see is Leia holding the plans. And when Captain Antilles asks what they've sent, she just says hope. And that's the final thing we get before the credits roll and we hear the classic Star Wars music. It's like they're
Oh,
just
I'm getting chills. I'm getting
exactly
chills from that.
they're just hitting us with nostalgia in the best way, because it's not just nostalgia for the sake of it. And there is nostalgia for the sake of it in the film, but it's a love letter to the original. And I feel like in 2016 that was great. Like maybe now it's a little bit more annoying because we don't really get as much prequel love and stuff like that. But then, and still watching Rogue One, it's great to see. I do have to ask, what are your thoughts on Leia and Tarkin in their CGI
CGI.
uncanny valley? Yeah.
Off-putting, to be honest,
Yes. Yeah.
because it kind of ruined the vibe to the whole film, because it was supposed to
Mm.
be like, yeah, nostalgic and everything, but it's supposed to be like that. But with Tarkin, I was like, is he okay? Because as we know, the original actor died.
Many
Oh,
years ago.
when did he die?
A long time ago in like the I
Oh,
don't
wow.
know, early 2000s maybe.
It was a bit weird to have him there, but then again, it's supposed to connect with this whole thing with Darth Vader and the original trilogy, and send that character from the prequel, not the original prequels. God damn it! Why it's so confusing because you're not you don't want to like say word like prequel because are you talking about the original prequels or are you
Yeah,
talking about
this is
the
a
prequel to
prequel. This is a prequel, but it's a sequel to the prequels, but it's actually a prequel to the originals, which then makes it a sequel to the prequels.
God damn it, Star Wars. But yeah, and Leia, at the end, I kind of liked it, but then again, it's off putting. But it's that chills, like she says
Mm.
hope. And it was like, yes. Did Carrie Fisher voice that line?
I don't think so. Obviously,
No.
this film came out like, mere days before Carrie Fisher passed away, so she was
Oh,
alive. So she was
no.
alive when they were filming it, but I'm not sure if she was the one who did it.
Uh,
Tarkin is really, really weird, but yeah, I agree that Leia also looks weird. But I think that that final scene is so good. This is the beginning of just a horrific cinematic trend that we are trapped in, where they just won't recast characters, and thank God they recast characters in Solo, but like even now you got CGI Luke Skywalker, and in Rise of Skywalker you get CGI Luke and Leia, and it's just distracting. If you've watched Doctor Sleep, which is the sequel to The Shining, all the
I
characters
need
in
to
that
watch it.
film, amazing film, all the characters in that film that they recast to do flashbacks for, they just recast and they just let you go with it, and it works. It works so much better because at the
Oh,
end of
no
the
way.
day, a human performance is so much more tangible and real than uh, this creepy like CGI puppet that we get in films like Rogue One.
Yeah, they need to do that nowadays because the actors they can do whatever like, fit in that role. Not like a CGI because that's off-putting. Professor Hulk, I'm looking at you. You.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yes, She-Hulk starts very soon. I guess we'll see how that goes with a lot of CGI characters.
Yeah, definitely. We'll see what's that like. But yeah, Star Wars is hopeful, as it says in the title. And this time, when the film came out, it was a good time. Like with Star Wars fans, like The Force Awakens, and like hearing about the news about prequels.
Well, this series, the Star Wars stories, was kind of short lived. We got Rogue One, we got Solo, but then after that, they haven't made any more. And any Star Wars stories they were going to make, things like Kenobi and Boba Fett, they have now made into TV shows. I mean, I think,
Why?
yeah, I think that these things would be better as films. We
I
talked about
agree.
it again. Check out our Kenobi episode, but that show was great. But
It was
just
incredible. Yeah,
it was too long. It was
I
just like
agree. Yeah.
it could totally be a film, and it should have been a film.
Yeah, and they would have turned it into a film. Like, imagine like the visual flair completely changed. It would just be like no more
Mm.
like stupid camera work. No,
All the shaky
or the
cam
shaky cam.
in Kenobi.
Right, the
Fuck.
shaky cam must be gone in cinematography. I'm sorry, no one can see anything. It's do like what John Wick did. That's a great way of like you want to see what the character is exactly doing. Not like in Taken 2 or something. I don't know. Like it talks like Liam Neeson to get over a fence with 22 shots. I think. I don't know.
Like, yeah, I think the action in this film really reflects that. And you've got some great stuff. I mean, in the Battle of Scarif, it's one of Star Wars' absolute best. You've got the ships in space, you've got X-Wings, you've got TIE fighters, you've got Hammerhead Corvettes ripping two Star Destroyers in half. Bloody
Oh,
great A for that. They even used footage from A New Hope with some of the X-Wing pilots and Y-Wing pilots, which is so cool.
yeah, and CGI did hold up for like with the battle scenes and everything, and it was good. It was good. I like
Yeah,
that one.
it a lot of people say that this film feels like a war movie, and I think that there is something to be said about that. On the beach when they're running from the 88, it's not an 8080, it's an 80 DPT. I don't know.
What are you
Um,
saying, bro?
I don't know that might sound ridiculous to you, but yeah, is it an 80 DP? What is it? What are you? 80 APPD. Okay, it's a walker. It's a Star Wars walker.
You mean the
But
or the AT-AT?
no, it's an eight. I think it's an 80 ACT. Yes, it's an 80 ACT. It's not an ASAT. It's a different thing. Don't worry about it. Only don't even worry about it. But
I'm over here chilling while you having a mental breakdown. It's like, which one is it? Oh my god, do I know
I,
which one
I
is it?
can't
Like,
I
chill,
can't call
chill.
I can't call myself a Star Wars fan unless I know every single detail. But yeah,
Don't
like
worry, man.
that stuff is all so good, and obviously we get all the character deaths. And I do think the film falls flat a little bit there because honestly, how much do we know about all the characters? It's like, okay, what do we know about Bodhi? He's the pilot. What do we know about Cassian? He's been in this fight since he was 6 years old. What do you know about Chirrut and Baze? They used to be guardians of the Wills. What do you know about K2SO? He's reprogrammed and sassy. You know, all these characters. It's just like, ugh. Obviously, they try to give them development, but it just falls really flat. I genuinely think that, like, because there are some good moments, like when we see Galen's message to Jin, but then they killed Galen, and you can't really explore what it's like for Jin and Galen, you know, having been apart for so long, because the narrative just shifts gear. Saw Gerrera, he has become a huge part of Star Wars. He's been in so much. He's in Bad Batch, Clone Wars, Rebels, Fallen Order. He will be in Andor. He's all over the place. He just dies, you know, like the film's characters are so flat, and it just, I just feel like it doesn't work. There's a moment where Baze says to Jin, "Good luck, little sister," and it's like, what? Why are you? Like, you've known her for 2 days, and we've barely seen you guys interact. Why do you consider her like siblings? That's just doesn't work for me. And I feel like a lot of this stuff needed more time instead of more action.
Yeah, that was a weird bit as well. Like they only met just like minutes. Like, hey, you know Star Wars? And you're like, yeah, the Death Star. Yeah, we're gonna get the Death Star. Your father's a pilot. Cool. And then dies.
Yeah, like
Um,
the plot is great, but the people in the plot like really do lack a lot of development to the point where
exactly.
nobody
Yeah.
even knows their names. Let's be honest right now. Like,
I know. Well, Tui, to be honest. Uh, Jin,
yeah,
Chirrut.
yeah.
I forgot the guy who
Oh,
was.
come on, he's getting a TV show. He's getting a TV show.
Oh, my brain. Come on. Cassian. Cassian. There you go.
Yes,
Cassian.
there we go.
Uh,
Yeah, like that's just a testament. Like I
the
know their
robot
names.
guy.
K2SO,
The
but
pilot.
that Bodhi.
Who was the gun guy? Who had like a
Oh,
massive gun.
Baze.
Uh,
But that's just it, really. I know the names because I'm like a huge fan. But like
oh,
general
are you a
audience.
Star Wars fan? Name every
Oh,
stormtrooper.
oh shit. But yeah, like general audiences like aren't going to know, and that's the problem really that we all have.
I'm an
Um,
example.
yeah, you are an example, and I feel like that is why I'm looking forward to Andor so much because
Yeah.
man, not only does Andor look amazing visually and in terms of like the way that they're expanding on this political thriller, but we are exploring Cassian as a character, and that's what this film sorely needs. And he's an interesting character. You know, the first scene that we see him in, he gets information from someone and then he kills them immediately. And it's like, damn, this guy's cold hearted. He talks about how he's done terrible things for the rebellion and how he's been in this fight since he was so young. That's really interesting. But the film doesn't develop that, it doesn't explore that. But now we're getting a TV show, it could explore that.
Yeah, at least we're gonna get something that is gonna be really interesting for this character that wasn't really deeply explored, but now we are, so that's good.
So, yeah, Rogue One, what are you going to give it out of 10?
It was a good film. I liked it, but the characters that were just completely like lacking. It was a bit dragging on and on with the characters. Like they couldn't explore it, and it was a bit emotionless with them. But Jin, Carrie, why did I forget his name already? It's Cassian. It's Cassian. Why?
Cassian.
What? See the names are not like
Yeah.
brought up enough.
Yeah,
Jeez,
no,
right.
there are so many, and the film has to introduce all these characters and all these locations and villains, and then you got to do action scenes, and like, there's so much going on.
Yeah, so much going on, but I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10.
Nice. I'm gonna go 7. So thank you everybody for listening. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more. We've done other Star Wars content. We did Kenobi, we did Book of Boba Fett, and we will be covering Andor when that comes out. We're gonna do an episode at the end when the show's done. Next week, we're gonna be doing the Hobbit trilogy
Oh
and then Lord of the
yes,
Rings
I'm
after
excited to
that.
watch that.
Hell yeah. Getting prepared for the Rings of Power. And you can send us an email, tell us your thoughts on Rogue One or Andor or any of that stuff, or ask us any questions, and we'll answer them on the podcast at ourstimefilmpod@gmail.com. And you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram as well at ourstimefilmpod.
Right. We enjoyed talking about Rogue One. And if you want us to talk about any other Star Wars content, what Star Wars story you want to hear? Do you want to hear a gonk Star Wars story? Or do you want to hear
We all want the gonk. We all want the gonk.
we want the gonk? Yeah, that's the only one I want as well.
Release the
That'd be
gonk.
cool, actually. That'd be cool. But thank you for listening. We enjoyed talking about it. Take care. Be good. Take what you're given.
Give nothing back.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.